My name is Steve Van Hout, current executive director here at the AASM. I've been with the organization since 2002, actually. My background is in computers. I used to be a programmer in my early days, but I came here on a fluke. During my junior year of college, I decided I wanted to become a mover over the summer, and it lasted all of 3 weeks being a mover, and quickly realized, wait a minute, I still need money, I still need a job, and happened upon an ad for a short-term job unpacking a warehouse. Just so happened the warehouse was here, AASM. So Chris Waring, he's actually now on our senior staff. He's the person who hired me back more than 20 years ago. So I spent the rest of the summer unpacking from the move from Rochester to Westchester. So it only took me about a week. So I was hired for the whole summer. So I was told, hey, you should probably do something else. So I became the receptionist. So I was a receptionist for about 4 weeks at the AASM. So if anyone had called in the summer of 2002, you might have actually spoken with me. So I went back to college and then thought it was over with. And then I got a phone call the next summer saying, hey, why don't you come back and do it again? So, hey, I needed another job in the summer. So during that time, I started to get to know Jerry Barrett a little bit more and told him a little bit of my background. So when I was done, he actually wanted me to come back for an internship over the winter break. So had an internship in network administration. Again, thought I was finally done with the AASM, go back to school, just finish off. And then I emailed Jerry at the time some recommendations I had based upon things I'd learned. Like, hey, why doesn't the AASM think about doing this? And so he invited me in to share it with the IT staff at that point. And next thing you knew, I was being interviewed for a programming position, and I was hired on the spot. I think I started the next day. So really interesting beginning of my time at AASM. I was not understanding even what the AASM was. It just kind of happened upon me. The first 6 years or so at the AASM was spent programming. I programmed a lot of different things. At that time, I was starting to be advanced, so I moved up to director of IT, then director of the organizational. Jerry came up with a lot of unique names, so I don't remember the exact title at this point, but I eventually moved up. In 2017, I became the executive director, and that's when I took over from Jerry Barrett. I think a lot of the issues that were affecting the organization when I took over had to deal with newer technologies being introduced, like wearable devices. Artificial intelligence was already being talked about in 2017. And I knew those would have some type of impact on the sleep field. I always thought of the sleep field as a really technology advanced type of field. So I thought that this is all great. This is all things that we should be excited for and learn to kind of leverage them at the end for better patient care. So that was something that was on a lot of people's minds and certainly worked well given my background. So I was excited to kind of take on those challenges that were happening. Some of the other issues we were talking about were access to care type of issues. There aren't enough board certified sleep medicine physicians. What are we going to do about all of that? Another issue that we were facing had to do with maybe public safety type of issues, either through drowsy driving or even school start times. School start times were being discussed a lot during my early times as executive director. Yeah, to address the technology shifts that were happening, we introduced a couple new committees. So in 2017, we introduced the technology committee at that time. I think it might have been a task force, a presidential task force. And the idea with that was to really analyze and provide information on all of the newer technologies that are happening. Quickly realize artificial intelligence is part of all of this. So we created an artificial intelligence committee in 2017. And through both of those, we were able to produce position statements on wearable devices, consumer sleep technology, and artificial intelligence. So those were some fun member kind of type of initiatives. We introduced a program called Sleep Medicine Disruptors, which is a course focused on innovation and a lot of really unique type of talks. It's unlike any other AASM course or event that we have because it's really thinking about this future and how could we take advantage of that future and take things that some people might feel are they're scary or they're afraid of and turn them into something that is positive. And that's really the whole idea behind Sleep Medicine Disruptors. So that started in 2019. We've had 2 other versions of that conference since then. When we were trying to figure out how to address access to care, there was a lot of initiatives that we were trying. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work. I'll say ones that did work were programs for APPs. How can we improve that type of training? I know we introduced some new educational programs for them. We really wanted to tackle the access to care issues in rural America, which was a real challenge. And one of our early initiatives was to try to provide accreditation to critical access hospitals. Problem, it didn't work out so well. The demand ended up not being where we needed it to be. But we've tried a number of initiatives to address the access to care, and some of the more recent one is improving our public awareness and trying to get more of the public aware of, they can see a sleep doctor through different ways. To address the school start time issue and the different safety issues with driving that were happening, we actually started a public safety committee. And the public safety committee was able to issue different statements and work on advocacy to promote later school start times for high schoolers. When I took over for the AASM in 2017, I think there was somewhat of a negative feeling towards the AASM. And I got the sense that others felt that we didn't play well with others. And that was something I heard straight from the board as well. We want to improve our image and we want to be more collaborative. So that was one of the things that was important to me, and I made sure that I was providing ideas for how we can be more collaborative, how can we rebuild our image and work better with our peer associations. When I took over as executive director, I inherited an amazing organization. Jerry Barrett really put me in a position to hit the ground running. The AASM financially extremely healthy. Our membership was at a good spot. So I was very happy when I started with kind of what I inherited. So there really were just a few things that I felt, if we tweak this here or there, we would be able to really advance where we were going. So another thing I felt when I took over that could be improved upon was the branding of the AASM. At that point, we were still using that yin yang as our logo. And I still remember the meeting where we pitched the idea of a new logo. Happened to be my first board meeting as executive director, so I hit the ground running. We thought long and hard. Do we really want to do this? And we felt, this sends a message. This is a new AASM, and that's really what we were trying to do in those early days. Is just say, we're rebranded, where we want to represent this image, this very friendly image, and more modern. And that's why we have the new AASM logo. At the beginning of my time as executive director, the opportunities for volunteers was somewhat limited. We actually only had 6 committees at that point in time. And I felt like if we were to grow our membership, we should try our best to get more people engaged. The more people we have engaged, the more likely they are to renew or to tell others about the AASM. So that was a priority for me and the board. So one of the things that we started to do was say, you know what, let's add more committees. So over time, we've added quite a few committees. We're now at 18 different committees. So 3 times growth in the committees over 7 years. You can't just do that and expect the staff to remain the same size. So that is one of the big changes, I think, from when I started to today, is the staff has grown from maybe 55, 60 employees, and we now are at 80. So the staff size has grown quite a bit, and we put a lot more resources into project management, making things more efficient and accurate, as well as a lot of those volunteer type of roles where we need different people to assist with them. So I'm very proud of kind of the development that we've had with the staff over the years. Another kind of priority for me was to improve kind of the culture within the staff. At that time, there was a decent amount of turnover, and I felt like if we can just build a internal system that everyone can stand behind, I think we could really improve the culture here with the employees. So that started with creating a shared vision. I remember one of my first meetings as executive director, I put on the screen, this is what the new AASM is. And it is about working together. It's about being collaborative. It's about creating a good experience for our members. And from that point on, we started to figure out how can we make our staff more excited to come into work. So we introduced new programs like an employee activity committee. How can we get our employees more excited about different things that can be fun? We also wanted to make it a friendly environment, so we started an onboarding committee. So whenever a new staff member comes, they can meet with a guide that will bring them up to speed. We solidified all this ultimately with some staff core values. So we wrote down, this is what's important to us as a staff. And we have those throughout the building to remind us these are our core values, our team values. The team values really has helped our retention rate and kind of the buy-in. I think everyone understands this is what it means to be an AASM employee, and it actually really helps us in almost everything we do. When we work together, we know kind of what we are expecting of each other. And it also allows us to think outside the box. I'm proud that we have done things with the staff that help others. So we have done volunteer opportunities with local organizations. We brought different ones into the office to assist with them. And I feel like that's an extension of the culture we're trying to build here within the AASM staff. One of the initiatives that I felt was important was creating this, what's called welcoming environment. So I learned this through a local association, the Association Forum of Chicagoland, which is really associations for executives like myself. And they have this program called the Welcoming Environment, which is a diversity, equity, and inclusion type of program. Back in 2017, this was still relatively new. There was not a lot of talk about diversity and inclusion. But I started to learn a little bit more about what is this all about. And I felt like that was a missing piece from our culture we were building. So we started to invest in some different speakers to come to talk to our staff about diversity, equity, and inclusion, unconscious bias, things like that were designed to build this welcoming environment. And we actually created a task force within the AASM for our members related to diversity, equity, inclusion in 2018. So we felt all of this was important, not only internally, but externally. In 2020, COVID was not the only major issue that was happening. The George Floyd incident happened in the May-June time frame of 2020, and that kind of set a new point for us as an organization. How do we respond to this important situation that's happening, or do we not respond? And as we look through our values, both with the staff and with the organization, it was clear that yes, the AASM should actually speak up here. So we issued a statement condemning racism in any form. We wanted to make sure it was clear that we don't just have a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement just for the sake of saying, hey, we have one. We wanted to actually put something into words that demonstrated like this means something to us as an organization. You know, one of the major challenges, I think, for pretty much any CEO, executive director in 2020 was the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. Pretty much unprecedented times. There's not really a playbook for what do you do in this situation. I remember hearing a little bit here or there, having some of these meetings about things happening. And for me, I took it somewhat seriously, but I thought it would be pretty quick and pass us by. When I heard about Tom Hanks with COVID, I knew we were in a different kind of territory here. I think as soon as that happened, within a day, you started hearing about things starting to shut down. On the day we decided to close the office, I remember coming in, not fully expecting to do that. It was 8 a.m, and I think I heard one more news report and that things were starting to shut down. So I assembled all managers. I said, you know what? I don't want to make this on my own. I really do want to hear input from others. Where are they at with all of this? So we had an emergency meeting and decided relatively quickly, we're going to not only close the office, we're going to close now. And so we immediately made that shift. Fortunately, we had already experimented with remote work. So we were in a position where we could transition pretty quickly to working remotely. So that was a real benefit for us as we tried to transition to 100% remote work. One of the biggest challenges with COVID was the annual meeting. So Sleep 2020 we start working on those annual meetings easily over a year in advance. So we closed everything up in March, hoping things would come right back within a couple of weeks and we could just start back over and get moving with the annual meeting. It took a few weeks and we realized, wait a minute, this actually could have a major impact on this meeting. We finally decided after weighing our options that we're going to have to cancel Sleep 2020 and attempt to do a virtual meeting. That was a very difficult move because we didn't want to wait too long. We knew that there's other events that occur and we don't want to overlap with them. We wanted to make sure it was at a time that it was still kind of by itself. So we came up with the idea of let's transition from an in-person meeting in June to a virtual meeting in August. Sounds great, but again, no one's ever done this before. No one said, let's go ahead and create this virtual meeting. So we had to figure out who are our vendors. They're all swamped. All of them are being overwhelmed with calls, making it very difficult for us even to find somebody who will help us run this meeting. Then we had to transition all the talks to pre-recorded talks. So all of that was extremely challenging. At the same time, when all this was happening, we're really stressed trying to get prepared for it. Dr. Bill Dement passes away. Obviously, he's the founding father of sleep med. He's the biggest name. And when that happened, we knew we had to do something for him. And we knew we had to do something special at the annual meeting. And we can't wait another year and say we'll do this in person in Sleep 2021 because he passed away in June of 2020. So we worked really hard with different people, including Meyer Krieger and Bill Dement's daughter, and worked on a video for him, a special presentation that we could do during sleep. Ended up being over an hour and a half long, and it was Blues Night. And that was something that I'm really proud that we were able to do because it really was an important thing to show to the world because it showed a lot of the history of Bill Dement and all of his accomplishments, and also showed his love and his love of jazz and his desire to kind of get others listening to jazz music. So we were excited to do it, but it was a lot of work. We were staying up very late. I was heavily involved. I remember we finalized that, I think, at 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that, the day of it going out. So later that night, I believe it went out. So the whole experience around the annual meeting in 2020 was an extraordinarily difficult time, and the staff worked overtime like crazy to get that done. At the end of the day, it is something very, very proud of, but it was a lot of work during unprecedented times. A major milestone that happened while I was executive director, I believe, is kind of the greater recognition of sleep and how it affects your health. I think that has been there's been a lot of movement over the last 4, 5, 6 years on that front. The American Heart Association updated their Simple 7 to include sleep as another important health characteristic. AASM has invested heavily in increasing the promotion of healthy sleep. When I started in 2017, our media impressions from the AASM were about 1 billion, which sounds like a lot. At the end of 2023, our media impressions were about 18 billion. So the amount of attention that the AASM is giving to sleep has been growing exponentially. In recent years, the talk about daylight saving time has really boosted a lot of interest in sleep and the AASM as well. Another milestone that happened while I was executive director, I really believe, is this greater emphasis on sleep in different consumer devices. We had an exciting opportunity when we were in San Francisco one year. We actually met with the CEO of Fitbit. He wanted to speak with us about different things and how they might be thinking about sleep within their device. We've met with Google. We know Apple is interested in a lot of things. A lot of these companies that you might not originally expect, we probably didn't think 10 years ago, Google wants to talk to us or Apple wants to talk to us about sleep. So I do think that during my tenure here, that shift of how can we incorporate sleep data into different devices, I think that's gone up quite a bit. Another milestone while I've been executive director has been this change in how people are thinking about the time change. I was very proud when the American Medical Association approved our resolution that specifically calls out standard time being the preferred option over daylight saving time. I think that was an important time for us because we are taking a strong position in advocating in Washington that we should not move the permanent daylight saving time. We should stay in permanent standard time. Some of the challenges facing the AASM at this point is the sleep technologist shortage is really impacting a lot of our accredited facilities. We're trying our best to come up with ways to help out. So we introduced a sleep technologist shortage task force. So there's a task force that's looking into the sleep tech shortage, and they're coming up with different strategies on what the AASM can do immediately to assist with the shortage. Another thing that we are doing is putting additional emphasis into our A-STEP program for sleep technologists. We are trying to update it, revise it, make it more easily accessible to sleep technologists. One of the more recent issues that has come up has been this AHRQ report, which questions the long-term benefits of treating sleep apnea. This could be a major problem because it may cause payers and even patients to question if they should be treated for sleep apnea. So this is something that the AASM board is taking pretty seriously, and we're coming up with different strategies to address that. We were actually going to have a sleepiness position statement that addresses some of the things that were left out of the AHRQ report. There was a de-emphasis on sleepiness as a vital sign or as something that is of importance in that report. And we were going to make it that clear that is a vital sign. It's actually an important vital sign of health, of a healthy individual. We've got AHRQ. All right. Another issue facing the field right now is the rapid development of artificial intelligence. When ChatGPT was first released, I think there was a shock of this technology actually is pretty advanced. And as people started to say, well, I'm going to use this to write something, right? Their brain starts thinking of, okay, what else can I have it do? How can I use that to help me in my day-to-day work? And I think that we'll be seeing here soon the impacts of artificial intelligence throughout sleep medicine. What could it do? It could help with different patient reports, it could help with scoring, it could help with screening. There's so many potential applications for artificial intelligence. The main thing is, how do we do it right? How do we integrate artificial intelligence in an appropriate fashion into an accredited sleep center? The last thing we want to do is harm a patient because we took our eyes off of something. We expected a machine to be able to do as good as a human. And we need to make sure that that does not happen. So we're working with our artificial intelligence committee and our accreditation committee on what kind of policies might we need to create? What might we need to be thinking about or looking at as artificial intelligence is playing a bigger part within a sleep lab? So I really do feel in the next few years, artificial intelligence is going to be our biggest disruptor in the field of sleep medicine, just due to the potential it could bring. The person who had the biggest impact on me as executive director has to be Jerry Barrett. I mean, he's the one who's given me all these opportunities, and he kind of set this up for me. So I must give credit where credit is due. And Jerry has had a tremendous influence on me, but what he did to the organization must be celebrated. When he started, the AASM was minuscule compared to where it is today. When he started, the AASM had $2 million in assets in annual revenues of about $2 million. When he stopped in 2017, when he retired in 2017, the AASM had over $70 million in reserves, so in assets. So Jerry really was able to turn the AASM around into a very financially successful organization and allowed the AASM to be able to offer a lot of the programs that we're able to do now that we have an increase in our finances. So Jerry has had probably the biggest impact on me personally, but I think within the field, at least within what the AASM has done, I think Jerry Barrett has been the leader that has brought the AASM to where it is today. Another person who I feel has really, I won't say helped me, Alex Chediak. Alex Chediak, when I took over, he must have called me on day one to introduce himself. Alex Chediak is the past president of the AASM, and he did something that really meant a lot to me. He invited me out to his house in Florida, and I got to spend time with him, his family, different people at his institution, and they showed me like what it's like to be them, what it's like to be a sleep doctor, and they really treated me to different things, and that meant a lot to me. And I think Alex kind of set this example of what is kind of a role model for our membership. I think Alex Chediak is one of the greatest AASM cheerleaders that we have. What he does to get others engaged is really, really special. So I feel like he has kind of influenced me to understand more about what's possible. So I have to give credit to the whole board of directors in 2017 when they hired me, but especially to Ron Chervin, who was the one who was president at the time I became executive director, and Eileen Rosen is the president immediately following Ron, and it was really me and her. I felt we had a special relationship because we were both figuring it out. I was figuring out becoming executive director. She was figuring out what it was to be the president. So I felt that was kind of a special relationship because we could kind of point to each other saying, what should we do? What should we do? And she was so kind and willing to help. So I definitely have a special relationship with Eileen. Another president that I have kind of a special relationship would be Cannon Ramar. I felt like the AASM board has been operating in a certain space. I felt like we could be more strategic and think a little bit more visionary. And I think Cannon Ramar was really bought into that. So me and him really worked on what can we do to improve the function of our board, what can we do to improve our results. And I used to have weekly calls that would last 3 to 4 hours with him because we would challenge each other to think like how can we move the needle on our operations and have the board shift from being in the weeds on different issues to saying, you know what, that's not our business, that's somebody else's, and focus on actually important strategies or thinking about what's the next thing we should be thinking about. So Cannon was really great at helping me to think like that, and through him, I believe a lot of changes happened then at the board level. And I would say today we have an extremely strategic board of directors. I have to say, every board member has influenced me in some way or another, and I've been blessed to work with so many different board members. Of all the accomplishments I have, I can't take credit for really any of it. The board has always been the one that has given me the advice, or we've talked it out. So the board really has been probably the biggest influence, and it's whoever's currently on it. But everyone on the board, I feel like I have a relationship with. One of the priorities I had when I joined the board was to get to know each board member. So I speak with each board member before every board meeting to try to understand where they're coming from a little bit more. So I feel like I have a relationship with all of our board members, and all of them have influenced me in one way or another. One disappointment from earlier in my career as executive director was the American Alliance for Healthy Sleep, the AAHS. This program was started, I think, with good intentions. The idea of it is, let's have an organization that is really looking for all patients with a sleep disorder and have a unified voice. And the AASM, to accomplish this, started a nonprofit 501c4 actually. And that group, we worked really hard to get off the ground, hoping patients would want to become members and we would be able to provide them with some resources or support for them. The unfortunate consequence of doing that was other patient organizations weren't as receptive to the idea. It felt somewhat like competition, and that is a shame. When we think about it, we totally understand that it could be thought of as a competitor, and it was not the direction that we should have gone. It felt right at the time, but as we received feedback, we understood that it felt like the AASM was entering into their domain, and we weren't being supportive of them. So as we started to get a clearer picture of all of this, we decided to discontinue the American Alliance for Healthy Sleep and change our focus, and decided we should work directly with the other patient organizations that are out there, and we should actually be promoting them instead of a different organization. So we started the Patient Advocacy Roundtable, and this is designed for patient advocacy groups to join. And the idea is we can hear directly from them about the issues that either their association is experiencing or their patients, any of their advocacy priorities. Are there ways for the AASM to elevate them or to amplify their voice? And I'm proud of this initiative. We've been doing this for the last few years, and feel like that righted the wrong. I feel like we're in a much better position right now with patients and patient advocacy organizations, but certainly how we first approached it was just the wrong approach, and we feel like we're doing it better now. One of the programs that AASM introduced in, I believe it was 2015, was AASM Sleep TM, a telemedicine platform, which is really unique. Having a medical society create a telemedicine platform is unheard of, and I have not heard of any other groups doing something like that. I was proud to be part of the development of that program. And it had somewhat of a user base that was excited in it. It never had a ton of people using it, so we kept trying to get more and more people using it. And the challenge started in 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic, where a lot of our members needed to shift to telemedicine, and they naturally then went to the AASM Sleep TM platform. Unfortunately, the platform was not designed or wasn't able to handle the amount of demand that we were receiving at that time. And in fact, it took up almost all of the effort of our IT department to keep that program alive and going, fixing bugs and making sure it works properly. So the idea, I think, was unique. We had to stop it because it does not allow us to actually do more mission-related activities, since all of our time was being spent on Sleep TM. So it was one of those things where I think the idea was unique, but there was a flaw in that it wasn't fully aligned with the mission of the AASM. And because there was a slight mismatch, I think it was going to fail eventually, and it just failed this time because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the lessons learned is maybe a medical society shouldn't be creating telemedicine platforms. If you were to look at kind of what I've done here at the AASM, I think the one that staff will probably point to is sleep ISR, interscore reliability. Interscore reliability was something I created with Rich Rosenberg and Jerry Barrett at the end of 2009, and we launched it January 2010. That was my baby. That was what I liked the most when I was a programmer, and I worked very hard to advance that and to update it, make it more modern. And I was the only developer on that program until 2016. And during that time, the amount of usage went up significantly. Sleep ISR is our most popular service we provide. There's more people using Sleep ISR than members, accredited facilities. Sleep ISR really does contribute a lot to our financial health as an organization. And so that is one thing that people might not realize that was actually one of my creations, but I'm very, very proud of that, and I think that has a big impact on the AASM. Other things I'm proud of is improving the image of the AASM, and many different initiatives to build up that image through public awareness, making others aware of who the AASM is, through improving our relationships with other associations, reaching out to them when I first started to introduce myself and say, I really want to work closely with your organization. So I was proud that we're able to now have a much more collaborative relationships with other medical societies. I'm proud of what we're able to do with the staff. That the staff, I feel, has a great culture that they've helped build, and that we're able to accomplish a lot together. So I'm really proud of kind of the different things we've done within the staff of the AASM. I'm very proud of the efforts that have gone into board development. I've worked with several board members on all of this, so I can't take all the credit, but we really have changed even the culture of our board and into a much more strategic focused group. So I'm very proud of all of those changes. I'm proud of all of the technology type of aspects that we've improved upon since I've started. Artificial Intelligence Committee, Emerging Tech Committee, Sleep Medicine Disruptors, really embracing this new technology that is there, and creating educational opportunities for our members to better understand this new and scary world that's coming. I'm really proud of the work we did during COVID. Very, very challenging time, but at the end of the day, I think that we navigated the challenges COVID had on us as an organization very well. I don't think I would change much of what we did during that time. So I'm extremely proud of the work that went out, and especially Sleep 2020. One of the things I think I helped, I'm hoping I helped with, is the value our members receive through AASM. We put a lot of effort into improving our value proposition by adding new things like the Engage platform, or compensation analysis, different resources to help understand all this emerging technology. So we really have been putting a lot of effort into improving the value our members receive. So I'm hoping that our members are in agreement that the value of AASM has increased since I've taken over. I'm really proud of everything we're doing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've been able to introduce a diversity, equity, inclusion committee. We've been adding diversity, equity, inclusion to our core values. We have a statement on our website, and I'm really proud that we were able to do all of that and add all of that while I've been executive director. And I'm proud that we're demonstrating it. We're not just saying it's a bunch of words. We're actually putting those words into action and doing different initiatives to advance our efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm excited about the future of both the field of sleep medicine and the AASM. There's a lot of opportunity out there for us. Artificial intelligence, as I said, it is coming, but what it's going to do is free up some more time. I think that's going to result in better patient care. It's going to provide more opportunities to see more patients. I think there's a lot of good that can happen as we take advantage of some of these emerging technologies. I'm excited for AASM as an organization because I think there's a lot of opportunities to provide more for our members. And we're coming up with new things that we'll be able to introduce soon, but there's a lot of opportunity to improve our engagement and make our members feel more welcome within the organization. AASM is the greatest medical society around.